because I believe that Brian Laundrie is alive. And you know why? His parents are from Long Island. When he came home and he's like, I choked that bitch out, his parents were like, I told you she was no good. You're my beautiful baby, his mother said, as he stood there and confessed to killing his girlfriend. You're my beautiful baby. That bitch was no good, said his father. And they're like, get under the flower pot. We'll drug you up, take a few of your teeth. This will be done in no time. He's alive. Brian Laundrie is alive. We are going to the UK, and we're very... It's like I talk a lot of shit about Long Island because it's deserved. It's warranted. I've never been like, you know, it's a great, compassionate place where people are full of empathy and intelligence? Long Island. I've never said that. I've said good clams, good bagels, good sandwiches. I've said very little about the people other than that they're funny.
Right.
They are funny, okay? What is this spontaneous combustion? Is this real? Can this happen and should it happen? Yes or yes?
Okay, so supposedly there's...
Sometimes the middle upper class people of Long Island, maybe they fund MS-13 to scare themselves so they never leave Long Island.
The thing about Long Island is that the people that live on Long Island are the stupidest people in the country.
What do you mean?
They're the dumbest. I've performed in Alabama. I performed in like all these places. There's something. Long Island has a very specific strain of dumb. They are confident hicks. Yep. They are hicks with the confidence level of like really cultured people.
Right.
And there's something about it that it's enviable in a way. Jerry Seinfeld in the movie Comedian goes, how big do you have to be before they'll shut up? Right. Talking about Long Island, they're going, it's really Alabama out here. Like, there's something about Long Island that it just breeds of the confident hick.
Case in point.
Yeah. But I escaped.
You got out?
I escaped, and then I went back, but where I'm in Long Island is not really Long Island.
Right. No. Long Island is confident, boisterous, ethnic.
Yeah.
You got a hint of Jew in there. There's bar mitzvahs. I always said, like, if you're a dad from Long Island, you're almost praying for a son the way the Spartans did.
Yeah.
Because if you have a daughter, you're in for a Sweet 16. You're in for a nose job.
Yeah.
There's a couple things you got to pay off. Wedding, Sweet 16, nose job.
Long Island is it's a time capsule, meaning that it refuses to evolve in any meaningful way.
And that's good or bad.
It has positives and negatives.
Bagels are great. They stayed the same.
Yeah. The food there is the best in the country.
Right.
Because if there wasn't, there would be riots. Like people... It subdues the people. It keeps them kind of happy. But it refuses to evolve there. Like, Long Island is 10 to 20 years behind Manhattan or any other major city. My favorite wedding that I've been to, maybe my friend Joe and Allison, who you met, mortgage people. They had a lot of fun. It was a very Long Island wedding. The Long Island wedding is always a huge waste of money. A Long Island wedding is an $80,000 where you take a handful of money and light it on fire in front of a room full of people. It's a 12-hour event where you save for like 2 years and you live in a basement and you because your wife wants to feel like a princess for 9 hours before she goes back and does medical billing for 9 years and gets fat. She wants to feel like a princess for just a day before she goes back and starts drinking fucking French vanilla coffee mate out of the fucking bottle with her other friends and smoking Marlboro menthol lights outside of the medical billing office in Coram. But before she commits herself to a lifetime of that, she wants to shove her ribeye-sized steak feet into a few nice shoes, put on a nice but cheap-looking but expensive wedding gown, because Long Island loves spending a lot of money on something that looks like you found it, and then strutting her stuff. She's been on keto for 9 months. She's lost 6 pounds because she doesn't know what keto is. And you and all your dirtbag friends get to go do cocaine one more time, and I mean one more time that week, at a strip club the night before, the week before the big day. And then your father gives you a fun talk, before the wedding. He says some, profound grunt. He's like, you're like, thank you. That's, thank you for that guidance. And then you go to a place like Jericho Terrace, or you go to a place like Leonard's of Great Neck, where they shot a scene from The Sopranos. You go to a garish, disgusting Long Island catering hall that has some stupid name like Chateaubriand. And you go to this place, and it has a fountain, and it looks like a place where they have like Little League trophy night, which they do. And it looks like a place where subprime mortgage brokers learn how to rob you. We did. And it looks like a place where they have sales conferences, big-titted, blonde-haired bitches and Goomba, greasy-haired pigs eat chicken franchise and figure out a way to snatch your pension from you with PowerPoint presentations. Because that's what these places do during the day. And then on the weekends, they all light themselves up so that Nicole and Tommy can finally tie the knot. A match made in heaven. So I love weddings. I love them. Long Island weddings are the best weddings because they're two people, two criminals, two demons, two monsters, two things that crawled out of a swamp of coffee creamer and bacon, egg, and cheese with ketchup and buffalo calamari and beer farts and Long Island iced teas and excuses, and the dog ate my homework, and I failed out of Oneonta. Two absolute pieces of the puzzle that unite and start the process of living a horrible life and ruining this world just a little bit. Just a little bit in the ways that they can. Being a little ruder, a little dirtier. They make the world a little less understanding. Oh, enough. I had a real rally there, but listen. So this is where we are. This is where we are on, what day is it today?
Thursday.
It's Thursday. This is coming out.
June 4th, yeah.
Thursday, June 4th. It's coming out Sunday. Super proud of everyone from Long Island. Proud you handled it. Mm-hmm. You guys really killed it. You knocked it out of the park. You brought your kids out to see what you're all about, yelling at people that want to peacefully protest. I like that. That's good. Good for you. Long Island, just keep being Long Island, And every year it gets a little worse, a little less affordable. More of them get pushed out. Every year, more and more people start, shooting up. Opioid crisis gets worse every year, because so much of what that community is based on is fear and hatred, which turns out is not exactly the best way. It's not the best organizing principle of society. Utter illogical fear and hatred. That's what Long Island is. Everybody's climbing in your window. MS-13's trying to kill you. Everybody's trying to kill you. Everybody on the road is trying to cut you off. They're trying to get somewhere faster than you. Everybody's trying to take your money, trying to take that house you inherited. Fear and hatred. Because as soon as you're fear, you're like, well, I gotta hate someone. So I just like that they were being, exactly who they are. Perfect. And the cops got to pretend that they're like neutral on Long Island. The cops going to be like, hey, I know, Jimmy, I know. Just shoot him. Hey, you got a gun. Tommy, just shoot him in the head. Jimmy, they're high school students. Who cares? You know what high school students can do if they want? Put a bullet in the back of her head. That's Antifa. They're trying to take over the delis. What's going to happen when Antifa controls the delis? Then what? You're going to eat vegan shit? You go in to get a bacon, egg, and cheese, and there's going to be some transgender making you eat vegan. No, thank you.
I will eat processed food, and I will die on my couch watching Tucker Carlson. I'm the only rational. Really, to be honest, as much as I've predicted and as much as I've been correct about, is there a reason I am kind of not made a leader? Not really. Not really. I should kind of emerge from this as kind of a leader. Mm-hmm. That kind of, you know, because I get it. I get both sides. I have friends that are cops. I have friends that are protesters. I have friends that are rubber bullets. I have friends that are batons. I went to school with a tear gas canister I still talk to all the time. I have friends that are looters. I have friends that are shards of glass. I have friends that are deep state CIA agitators. I have friends that are, people that work for Chinese intelligence, Russian intelligence, okay? I have friends that are targets. I get where everybody's coming from. I can understand it. I have friends that are counterfeit bills. And I have friends that are cops that are murderers. So all across the board, I just think we can't live in a world of unfocused rage. You know, cops need to be taken down several pegs, but I don't see how smashing up a small business owned by somebody who worked hard and has never done anything. Like everyone's like, well, the cops just protect property. Yeah, but freedom is owning property. Freedom's the ability to not have to depend on the government. Freedom's the ability to do something without the approval of a fucking nameless, faceless group of bureaucrats. You know? So, okay, you don't want cops to protect property. Can we have guns to protect property? No. Well, then, who's going? Well, we shouldn't have private property. Well, then what are we going to do? Well, the government should just dole out the land as they see fit. To who? Who's the government? Who's this magical government that is somehow going to do this appropriately? You mean the same government that backs the police? So you want them handing out the land, and you want them sticking a needle in your ass in Walgreens. The word out. When you were in Long Island, when you were a kid, there was always a guy, it was a pedophile in a white van driving around trying to kidnap kids. And this was something they would have like an assembly about it, which means they'd bring all the parents into the school and they'd go, there's a man in a white van. And then they send letters home with you and you'd give your, will you shut up? They'd send letters. Shut up or come on the show. They'd send letters home talking about the guy in a white van. And then my parents didn't give a fuck about me. They were like, it's fine. You'll be fine. But just paranoia. And you go on the next door thing, and it's just paranoia. People think they're being robbed. People think people are conspiring to rob their shitty house. Your shitty house. You think people are trying to knock over your house to get $18 in petty cash that you keep on the counter next to a couple Arby's wrappers? Calm down. The paranoia in this country that everyone's trying to kill you at every goddamn moment. Mm-hmm. You know, terrorism. You know, they talk about the opioid epidemic like people are walking around with syringes full of heroin, injecting them into people and turning them into zombies. You know, they talk about it like they don't talk about any of the causes, any of the reasons it might be happening. You know, areas of being deindustrialized. There's no jobs. They separated from all of that. There's a few books that go into that. But for the most part, they're all on the news like this. Opioid epidemic. It's just people running around. These dope fiends. These kids are doing heroin and people are, but yeah, the Nextdoor app, man.
In terms of like, if you go to a restaurant or if you go anywhere, you look at it, you're like, whoa, this is dated. Long Island's in the early 2000s now.
It's true.
Yeah, they're in the early 2000s now.
It's true. When you go to restaurants in Long Island, like an Italian restaurant, it looks like a restaurant in Brooklyn, before gentrification.
Yeah, it looks like a movie set
like
that they put up.
Yeah.
Because Long Island, it's best explained this way.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of people longing for a time when they weren't even alive.
Right.
They're longing for this era that they're longing for the Rat Pack.
Right.
None of them were alive for that.
Right.
None of them have any connection to it. They're just longing for this like romanticized version of America that kind of never existed and certainly didn't exist in their world.
Right.
But it's a funny place.
Does the geography of Long Island have anything to do with the mentality of
Yes,
people?
because it allows people to appropriate the accomplishments of New York City and the magnitude of New York City and the importance of New York City, and it allows them to feel that they have some type of relationship to that or that conveys some sense of legitimacy to them.
There's 9 million people back there. I didn't know that till a couple of years ago.
It's a lot.
It's a lot of people in Long Island. 9 million.
Yeah.
And they're also like, there's 2 ways out, and those ways out are packed with traffic.
Yeah, and nobody takes them.
Nobody takes them. Is that part of why they stay there? Because Long Island almost feels like a disconnected island from Brooklyn and Queens. It's almost like.
Well, it's the first suburb, and I always explain it like this. It'll be the last. I mean, it's going to dig in and hold on to the racism, the hatred, the fear, the paranoia, the buffets, the fentanyl. Like, it's going to hold on. Every suburb will eventually look like Long Island. Like Austin, have your fun. Have your fun. Like all these things that are on the come up.
Yeah.
Like my Coconut Grove, have your fun. Eventually, at the end of the run, instead of these green leafy suburbs that they start out with, you're gonna have track housing, buffets, and fentanyl. That is how it all inevitably ends because the comfort will corrupt.
Yeah.
Everybody gets fat and happy.
Yeah.
Everybody, Long Island's the only place in the world you could just get a job from your mother's friend. And you could stamp like, pool passes for 70 grand a year at the rec center.
Right.
And like, these are, and then have a separate dark web kiddie porn business, like on the side. Like you could work it all around. Like these places are all going to eventually end up Long Island, a very ugly place. There's beauty, but it's very few and far between, and it costs more and more and more money now because the majority of it is ugly. It's true. It's consumerism run rampant, fear, paranoia. It's ugly.
Yeah, they sit there, they watch Fox News, and they're
angry, and they're waiting for MS-13 to climb in a window, and they're waiting because that's what keeps them going is fear.
Articles about this I was reading, she like got limos for the kids, and there's a lot of stuff charged on the
I'm
cars.
gonna tell you this. Many of the kids are going to look back and say that these were the greatest times of their lives. Not all of them, but many of them are going to look back and say these were the days. And it's sad. But I remember, we didn't, nobody in Long Island was a saint who was parenting us, letting us have parties. Nobody was a saint, but here's what we were able to do. Of course we would drink and vomit and people would have sex and there would be fights and whatever. The parents' job, I would hang out with the parents. I was the one who hung out with the parents because I didn't want to have sex with the women. And I enjoyed my friends and we would get drunk, but I was always curious about how much money all the parents had. I always thought it was funny, right? I wanted to know how much money the parents had. So I would always talk to the parents, about all kinds of things, the changing neighborhood, a lot of the things that were going on. Because I knew how to get into their circle of trust.
Sure.
I would just sit down in Long Island. In Long Island, if you want to get into someone's circle of trust, you just sit down, you have a drink, and you stare at them and you go, things feel different. Am I wrong? And they will go on for an hour. They'll be like, you're not wrong, and here's why. But I live in Long Island, the home of dirtbag white people. I mean, did you see the Long Island go and get up the Merrick, Long Island response to a peaceful Black Lives Matter protest. They were terrified that Merrick Road would be taken up by protesters and they wouldn't be able to go out and get a sandwich. Watch this. Watch this. Community members here in Merrick and surrounding towns adamantly opposed to Nassau police trying to figure out a way to allow protesters to walk up Merrick. They got kids. By the way, the Merrick people have got kids there. They're like, let's teach our kids how to be racist and apathetic to all of society's problems. Let's bring it's like a young kid there. There's a young kid there in fucking slides, like water sandals. Kids in water shoes. The kid's probably in the backyard in the fucking sprinkler, and the parents like, John, get in the car. There's blacks in our town. We're going to go get them. Get in the car. Mom, I want to play with my friends. Get in the car right now. People want to change things in this country, and we're going to stop them. We're going to stop them. They want to walk down the street with signs and exercise their First Amendment right, their right to speak freely, and their right to assemble and protest. And we got to show them that shit don't fly in Long Island. Mom, I just kind of want to hang out with Jack's coming over. No, we're going to the protest. Tell all your friends you're going to a race riot with your mother. We're going to a race riot with your mother now. You'll see your friends there. There's enough time in the day for friends. Today's race riot with Mom.
Go west!
Go west.
This isn't peace! This isn't peace! Dennis! We have a voice! This isn't peace! Hey, Dennis! Dennis, the voice now! No!
Get them the hell out of here!
Get them the hell out of here. Get him the hell out of here. Yo, Giacomo, do something. Get him out of here. They're protesting police brutality. Get him out of here. I love that there are kids there. I mean, how sick are you? You bring the kid. Oh. You know, people, I guess, people are just like, listen, this is a historic moment, son. By the way, everybody who's saying maybe they didn't have a babysitter, Long Island people leave their kids home for all kinds of reasons alone all the time. So let's cut it out. That kid was old enough to be left home alone for a little while. It wasn't like a young kid that you had to parent. It was like a kid who clearly could have stayed home, but the parents thought it was a good idea to just go, let's just bring you to a race riot. Let's bring you to a peaceful protest that we're trying to turn into a race riot because we got 40 white people out there screaming at them with bandanas, by the way. Now everybody looks like a Blood or a Crip. Like all these white people are wearing bandanas to protect from COVID. So they all have just red bandana. They look like, it's like the Hells Angels. Looks like a biker gang heading up the street. These masks are terrifying, folks. I hope they fucking work because they're terrifying as fuck. I just love that. Just a bunch of fat people standing outside of Merrick Deli being like, get out. Hey, you. Get out of here. Don't clog up the street. What are you doing? What's your problem? The cops are cops. Yeah, they beat on you with batons. What's the problem? If you don't want to get hit, don't go outside. Like, you got to hear, like, people in Long Island that defend these police shootings, the logical jumps they have to go through are great. They're like, yeah, what are you, outside in a park? You're going to get hit. This was like pre-pandemic, by the way. Yeah. They were just trying to justify anything. They're like, here's the deal. If a cop's beating you, you're in the wrong. That's it. If a cop has got his gun in your face, you've done something wrong. I know that because my brother Larry's a cop. And Larry tells me these people, they're up to no good. That's why we got to beat them with sticks in the street, even after they're handcuffed, even after they pose no threat to everybody. Larry was upset that, his wife made him redo the kitchen. They took out all kinds of money, all kinds of loans, kitchen's not being done. So, Larry goes out there with his baton and finds somebody to make pay for that, Of the Long Island. Listen to this. We surrounded the protesters because we protect all of the wait, hold on.
That was the police commissioner.
Yeah. Do they have a quote for any of the Long Island people?
Just go west.
Go west. That's good. Hey, go west. You're east now. We agree with everything the police are doing. We don't care. We like the military. We like the Blue Angels. In fact, we think the Blue Angels should go and drop bombs on the protests. That's where they're like, hey, why don't you drop bombs on the protests? Who cares? Do you know how many people in this country would really not care?
They'd love it.
They would love it. If the government just started bombing the protests, they would think it was great. They would watch it the same way they watched the bombings in Syria. Just eating a breadstick, just chewing on a breadstick